Hey everybody, Vince August here. It is Wednesday, December 30th, and as promised, I am going live on Wednesday nights. I'm going to try to keep these consistent to 7:30 on Wednesday night. I've told many of you that I'm trying to do something more elaborate than this background here. In fact, I did meet with someone, and pretty soon it's going to be Miller time. You don't know what that means. It'll make sense in about a month. But I'm looking to kind of do a studio setup and everything else. And the idea is going to be to go live at least once a week, and then maybe sporadically jump in here and there with a quick comment on something. Hello, Deb. Thanks for checking in. Also, what I'm going to try to do is, because of the way we're going to change the setup, I'm also going to be able to take questions at the end of segments. The idea is going to be to do really two segments at first and turn it into like a half hour actual news show. I would love it if eventually I wind up getting guests. But I'm trying to do big things. Jeff Savino checking in as always. Okay, so two stories as I always promised. We go with a more serious story, and then we try to do and always leave on a lighter note. Okay, so the first one, as you can tell by the headline, this is called the Dimulus and Ball Drop. I called it Dimulus because obviously what we're getting is not a stimulus package. So let me just go over what happened, and I'm going to kind of play it against um, why I'm a libertarian, why I'm an independent, and why I've always hated both sides of the aisle. So here's what we have. Um, they come up with this huge, enormous stimulus package. They come up with this other budget package. Basically, it's $2.3 trillion of spending. And the spending, one of the bills is going towards the defense bill. The other bill is going towards pretty much everything. You've all seen, the $10 million going to Pakistan for gender studies, $700 million to the Sudan. And then Donald Trump comes out and gives this speech saying, look, here's this package that they put on my desk, and it's filled with money going all over the world and only $600 per person in the United States. This is terrible. I'm not signing it. And for a minute there, I was like, wow, President Trump is nailing this. Great job. Well done. And then he's basically saying, look, I want $2,000 a person in the United States, and I want you to cut all this stuff out. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know about $2,000 a person, maybe $2,000 for the people that need it, not everybody, because not everybody lost their job. Some people were not affected at all by this. In fact, the billionaire class, if you looked at the recent article that came out this week, actually made an extra $900 billion this year. So all of the big major corporations actually made more money than a lot of the businesses that are going under. So I'm like, okay, I don't know. Everyone should get $2,000. And then what does he do on Sunday? He signs the bill. So the guy who writes The Art of the Deal basically takes out his own legs, completely loses any leverage that he has, signs the bill, and says, now go get $2,000 a person. And I was like, wait a minute, you just accomplished nothing. Because if the whole point was to get $2,000 to people and sign the bill that you wound up trashing but signing anyway, you could have said this 3 months ago when they were negotiating it. You could have told Steve Mnuchin, listen, no, make it $2,000. Now, here's the part that really made me nuts. Everybody jumps in and tries to take credit for it. So the Democrats are like, well, Nancy Pelosi starts shaking, like Tickle Me Elmo. I would have wanted $2,000. We wanted this. The Republican, and then Chuck Schumer comes out. Where's Chuck? Where Chuck Schumer comes out, Eddie the Eagle from the Muppet Show. He does this. He goes, we would have wanted the $2,000. They didn't want to give it to us with they didn't want to give it to us. We wanted the $2,000, but they didn't. And I was like, no, 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 no. Listen, you can't do that. You can't say we were fighting for it, they want to give it to us. And then Sanders comes out with his look, we wanted the $2,000 to begin with. They didn't want to give it. Why didn't Trump? So they all tried to take credit for it. AOC, Atlanta, everyone tried to take credit for the $2,000, but it wasn't there. The $2,000 wasn't there. Then Trump says, let's go to $2,000. And the Republicans were like, well, dude, we were talking about this. Why didn't you mention it to us? And now we can't afford this because you signed the bill that had all this other money in it. So, in my opinion, everybody came out of this thing looking bad because the Democrats didn't fight for more than $600. Let's be honest. And the Democrats really haven't been fighting for crap. And I'm going to get into something else they're not fighting for. The Republicans certainly didn't fight for more than $600. Trump certainly could have mentioned this months ago. So all he does by coming out with the podium and giving a speech and then saying, I'm not going to sign anything. And then he signs the bill and says, oh, by the way, go get everyone $2,000. All he did was create chaos. He didn't really do anything. So no one accomplished anything. And let me tell you, so there's a guy who's also on YouTube. And by the way, if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel because we want to grow that channel because eventually we want to move things off of Facebook, or as I call it, Spybook, off of Spybook over to YouTube where we can start monetizing this thing and doing better. All you have to do is go to YouTube, search Vince August. You'll see my page, click subscribe. That's it. That's all you got to do. It doesn't cost you anything other than maybe 3 minutes of your time. So please subscribe to my YouTube page. And you know what? I'm maybe going to have contests. I'll give away T-shirts to people that can get the most people to subscribe to my YouTube page a week. We'll start doing stuff like that. Okay, I digress. Anyway, so when it comes, so this guy Jimmy Dore is on YouTube, and he's saying, "Look, progressives, if you want to finally make a big play in the House, why don't you do this? Withhold your vote for Nancy Pelosi to be House Speaker, unless she gets a Medicare for all vote on the floor." She can't do it without your votes. So you know what? Now is the time during a pandemic to fight, get a Medicare for all vote on the floor. Let's see who's for it. Let's see who's against it. And then you know what? When we see who's against it, then we'll primary these people in the next election. And let's get people that are actually willing to fight for the amount. And sure enough, people like AOC and all of the progressives are like, no, now's not the time. Now's not the time. We got a pandemic. 14.5 million people lost their health insurance this year. Now's not the time. When is the time? So the interesting thing is, and this is why I hate all politicians. And this is why I have a problem with everybody in politics and why I never take side. Okay, because they're willing to fight for their own interests. They're willing to fight up to the border of where it works out for themselves. So for example, when you look at all of the money that was raised that's in these bills. So when you see $700 million for the Sudan, $10 million for Pakistan, $33 million for Venezuela, all of these things are actually argued. It's not like someone writes down a piece of paper and they hand it in. They actually have these committees that they go in and they argue for this stuff and they make arguments. So apparently, none of them had a problem arguing for all of the other things in the bill, including a $25,000 a year raise for themselves. But they seem to have a problem arguing for more than $600. And then they tell you, well, now wasn't the time to do it. Nancy Pelosi said $600 is substantial. You know, to tickle me almost, $600 was substantial. And then they tell you, well, no, $2,000 is great, but they don't fight for it. And, you know, it takes me back to something that I saw. And this is where I look at politicians and I look at normal people and I try to tell people, look, they may be elected by us, but they're not representative of who and what we really are. Because in the end, they fight for their interests. They really don't give a shit about us. And stop thinking for a minute that Democrats are different than Republicans. They're not. They're really not. They're always after their own interests. And I'm going to give you an example of a story that I think is one of the most heart-wrenching, incredible stories I've ever seen. So I read this book years and years ago called In the Company of Heroes by this guy, Michael Durant. And I read the book and he wound up doing a book signing in Ridgewood, New Jersey. And I had to go meet this guy. And if you don't know who Michael Durant is, and he autographed the book for me, the cool thing about going that night was, well, it's actually a really bad thing. The bad thing was there wasn't a whole lot of people there to meet him for this book signing. The good thing is I got to meet him and spend some time with him. Michael Durant is in Super 6-4, which is the Black Hawk helicopter, the second one that gets shot down in Mogadishu. And while he's on the ground, you can get an overhead view from the people that are flying above, the soldiers that are flying above, and there's 200 Somalis closing in on Michael Durant. And in another helicopter hovering over this are these two Delta Force soldiers, Gary Gordon, Randy Shigart, Master Sergeants in the Delta Force. And they're looking down at the scene, and they see these Somalis closing in on this guy, and they're like, look, we got to get down there. And the general who's in charge is this guy, General Garrison, and he says, look, we can't drop you in. We don't know when support is coming. We don't know when backup is coming. You may have no backup. It may just be the two of you. And they're like, we want to go down. put us down there, we're going to set up the perimeter. It'll be us. So these two guys with no other help are saying, drop us in there. We're ready to fight now. Whereas our politicians are saying, look, we're trying to build a coalition to get more support for, the bill, Medicare for all. We're trying to get some more support. Now's not the time to do it. These two soldiers are like, no, and this is literally life and death, literally life and death. So they drop these two Delta soldiers in. Now, what you don't see in the movie Black Hawk Down, what is not in most of the books, and you can only get from meeting people that actually served, and they tell you the story. And after they looked at the overhead view, and some of the soldiers will tell you this, when Shugart and Gordon are down fighting off the Somalis, there comes a point in time where they literally fight until they run out of ammunition. They are completely out of ammo, which is how they wind up getting killed. And there's video, and I grew up during this, and I saw this on the news of their bodies being paraded down the streets of Somalia, and they're literally torn limb from limb. So everyday people like these soldiers, when push came to shove, and they said, look, now is the time to act, okay? That we know the situation. We know how perilous it is. They went down there and fought until they literally had nothing left to fight with. They were out of ammo. They fought to protect this soldier who wound up surviving. Okay. If you read his story, it's really an incredible story. He winds up surviving because of these two guys who, mind you, he never met on the base, never met them. They were all on the same base, but Deltas hung out with Deltas and the helicopter pilots hung out with helicopter pilots. They never met this guy, but he was one of theirs. He's a brother in arms. He's an American soldier. They had to go down and fight. So, as people, we will do things to fight for our family. We will go out. We will take any job. We will do whatever we have to do to survive. Are our elected officials doing the same thing when it comes to just going into a meeting room and say, hey, listen, guys, listen, fellow members of Congress, listen, fellow senators, we this is not the year to start giving money to other countries. Look, when we can help other countries, we'll do what we can. This is the year we really got to help our own. We got bread lines in this country. We have 14.5 million people without insurance in this country. You know what? I'm going to stand here on the floor until I have nothing left to fight with for American people. Because I'm going to tell you right now, Donald Trump didn't do that. He signed a bill. He signed a bill on Sunday night. And then he says, here, go get everybody $2,000. Everybody doesn't need $2,000. Not everybody. There were people that didn't lose their jobs that don't need $2,000. There are people that actually did better than they did last year that don't need $2,000. There are people that need money that haven't been working. And here's the interesting thing. When you think about this, our elected officials, governors, okay, people in the media, they have been preaching to us all year long about what should be closed and what should be open, who should stay home and who shouldn't. The people that never lost a dollar's worth of income were making the decisions as to who should lose income without ever giving something up of their own. Okay. So when you get information from the media, when you get information from politicians, remember the people making the decisions didn't give up anything and maybe didn't fight with everything they had to give us what we deserved. No, they fought to that boundary line where, it's they have their own interest to protect. So that's my take on the stimulus that wasn't or isn't really a stimulus. Now, I do want to get to something fun, as I always get to something fun. Now, here's my fun thing. So we have New Year's Eve coming up tomorrow night. Now, I did this last week with regards to Christmas traditions. New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve is one of those nights where you're either a super partier, you put on, your sequin dress, you go out, you do your thing. Guys get dressed up, and you put on the hat. You get. Me, I was never that guy. I was lucky that I used to work, and I closed the show at Caroline's on midnight. I want to say it was at least 3 years in a row. I think 4 years in a row. So I would close the early show and then close the late show. And here's the great thing. So if you've never been to Times Square in New York City, here's what it is. So we were there the first year and we were grabbing something to eat before we headed over to the club. And around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, people start running down the side streets like maniacs. It's just like the running of the bulls in Pamplona, Spain. So people are flying down the streets and they run into these pens. Now, what you're seeing down in Times Square, that's a whole different area. So everything past, like I want to say, figure like 45th Street towards Central Park. Okay, completely different setup than what you're seeing. The people listening to music, dancing in right under where the ball's dropping. Okay, these people rush into pens and they're literally locked into pens like cattle, like livestock. They're locked into pens. And now at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they are stuck there. They can't move from 4 o'clock until midnight. They're there, they're watching a ball drop. So that's 8 hours of no bathroom. Now, some people try to order food, so they get pizza delivered, they get food delivered, which I don't know that you want to do that because we're going to go to the bathroom. Once you leave the pen, you're out of the pen, you can't come back. That's it. So you got to stay there for the whole 8 hours. Okay. So here's the thing that happens. So they stay there for the whole 8 hours. Now, me, you got to see the look on their faces. So here I am. I'm closing the show at Caroline's. I close the show at Caroline's 5 to 12. We literally go out the back door, out onto 7th Avenue, 3 minutes to 12. And these people are looking at us like, where the F are these people coming from? I've been out here like a schmuck for 8 hours, and these people just walk out and they get to see this thing for three. So anyway, so we walk out onto 7th Avenue, and these people that have been waiting for 8 hours to watch the Bulls, and in the last minute, what do? They take out their phone and they watch it through their phone. They record. You're recording the thing that is on every TV pretty much in the world. Like no one else is going to see this. Like you have to prove that you were there. Take one picture early on. But believe me, we're going to know that you were there. But they're recording. You waited for 8 hours and you're not even going to watch the thing happen real for real. You're going to watch it through your phone. And as far as the eye can see, so when we would come out, we come out of Caroline's 52nd Street, we look to the right towards where the ball's dropping. All you could see is the face of phones lit up the whole way. Then when you turn the other way towards Central Park, all you see is the light on the phones pointing up, literally hundreds of thousands of these. It's all you see is phones. So anyway, so the ball drops, everyone screams. Now here's what happens after the ball drop. These people have been waiting for 8 hours to go to the bathroom. They open up the cages, and it's literally like lights turning on, cockroaches fleeing. When I tell you by 12:15, New York City streets are empty. I mean, everybody is out of Times Square. Boom, gone, empty. And in fact, starting at Central Park, you have the sweep brigade coming down to sweep all the confetti. Okay, now the cool thing is when you look towards Times Square, you can see all the fireworks going off, and then you look the other direction towards Central Park, you see all those fireworks going off. In fact, there's a run that happens right before. Imagine that you want to exercise right before the boat. Anyway, there are people that do the run in the park, and then there's fireworks, the whole bit. So there's fireworks all around. Now, I know people have different traditions too. There are some people that hold money. There's a thing where you hold money for good luck. And I don't know if you hold it in your right hand or your left hand. I've done that. Yeah, and I'm still, look at me. Yeah, I'm broke as F. Then other people do this thing that I've heard where you eat 12 grapes. And as you eat each grape, you make a wish for that month. So the one grape is January, February, obviously. And you go through, and so you make a wish, eat a grape, make a wish, eat a grape, make a wish, eat a grape, and you do that for the 12 months. I've done that a couple times. Yeah, after last year, pretty much anything I did last year, I don't trust anymore, so I'm not doing any of that stuff. Then there's this thing where people on the first day of each month say white rabbit. I've heard white rabbit or bunny bunny, and that's supposedly a thing where brings you luck for the month. So tell me what your traditions are because there's all kinds of things. Money on the windowsill, I'm seeing. Jess is writing. I've never heard of money on the windowsill. Money on the windowsill. What neighborhood do you live in that you could put money on a windowsill? You kidding me? They'd shoot out the windows in the town I grew up in just to get. They would break through your window to get the money in your house. Nonetheless, the money on a windowsill. That's like leaving breadcrumbs for a bird. Um, so yeah, tell me your traditions now. Maybe money on the windowsill is one. I don't know. But tell me your traditions. Leave them in the comments. Also, let me know if you watched this live. There wasn't a whole lot of you tonight. I know we're in a holiday week. It's weird. There's only about somewhere between 10 to 14 people. But you know what? We're going to build that number. That's something that I'm watching too, just to see where we start getting. Um, Oh yeah, I've heard that. You have to eat lentils on New Year's Eve. Now I have to tell you, I love lentils. I eat lentils all the time, so I should have good luck like everywhere. But I don't know. That doesn't happen. Um, Oh, the money is on the inside of windowsill. No, still not good in my neighborhood. You can't. We had bars. We had bars on my. I grew up in Hackensack, New Jersey. We had bars on the window. You're not putting anything in a windowsill. Trust me. The only thing you wanted in the windowsill was a sign, "Beware of owner," and it was like a picture with someone holding a gun. Not even beware of the dog. The dog. That wasn't even a thing. Uh, no tradition. Sleep in the new year. Deb is like, yeah, F 2020. We're not even gonna watch the ball drop. By the way, you know who should do the ball drop in New York City? I think it should be Mayor de Blasio and Governor Cuomo because they've dropped the ball all year long anyway. Who better to drop the ball in New York this year than those two clowns? I think that's what they should do. They should have the two of them at the top of the building where they Times Square where they drop the ball and say, Mayor de Blasio and Governor Cuomo, you're going to drop the ball because why not? You've been doing it all year. We should drop them from the top of the building. But make 120 and the other 121 and drop them. Anyway, so let me know all of your traditions. Let me know if you watch this live. Let me know if you watch this on the replay. Again, please go to my YouTube page. All you have to do is say Vince, type in Vince August on YouTube, click subscribe. You're going to get notifications of when I go live. I'm going to keep doing these videos here. Like I said, we're hoping by around mid-January, maybe the third week in January, this is going to have a whole new look. We're going to have intro music. We're going to have graphics. My graphics team. Remember the graphics team with the paper? I'd hold up, like even now, this is my graphics team. Look, I hold up the actual book. We're gonna have actual graphics, maybe video clips, all kinds of stuff. Um, Everybody, look, the 2020 has been a kick in the nuts for all of us. You got to go into next year positive. You know what? Look, if we made it this far, you've got a reason to celebrate and think all positive things for 2021. Thank you so much for the support. Hopefully, I was able to make you guys laugh part of this year, part of the time. Hopefully, I was able to bring some calm to some of the situation. And listen, I know you guys disagree with me on a lot of stuff. And I don't get this stuff right. I'll be honest. I get a lot of this stuff wrong. You can tell me, look, Vin, I think you're wrong on this. And maybe you'll show me. And I'll say, yeah, you know what? I'm right. Some of you, I have to admit, it's amazing how you get everything right. I don't know. It must be so hard to live your life and be as perfect as all of you are. It must be so hard for the person you live with to know that they live with somebody who's fucking perfect and never wrong. And you're right on politics, you're right on religion, you're right on health. Look at you. You know who you are. That everything you post, you have the right answer. You're fucking always right. It must be so hard to be. I'm not that guy. I get things wrong. So I'm willing to admit it. So thank you, everybody. Have a great New Year's Eve. And yeah, let's keep this momentum going into next year.